So in plant cell, remember, the function of lysosome is actually carried out by the central vacuole, okay, because plant cell doesn't really have lysosomes. Okay, and the animal cells have plasma membrane only. It doesn't really have cell wall structure. So that's why cytoskeleton structure is very crucial for animal cell. As opposed to plant cells has cell walls in addition to plasma membrane. Okay, so cytoskeleton is a little less in plant cells. And then they have no lysosomes for plant cells. Instead, vacuole carries out the lysosome functions. Okay, when you're talking about the plasma membrane, okay, let's start with the structure of a plasma membrane. So when you go to page 62, okay, so before we talked about how the membrane is composed of the lipid bilayer, right? So it's composed of the phospholipids. So this is a phospholipid molecule, right? And then another phospholipid molecule like this, okay? So remember the polar head, and so this is polar head, okay? And this is non-polar tail, okay? So these two come together to actually form this kind of lipid bilayer structure like this, okay? So remember that inside of a lipid bilayer, it's non-polar, and then on the surface of a lipid bilayer, it's polar. So that's why this can actually meet the water environment outside and inside the cell, okay? But also inside the membrane is a nonpolar hydrophobic region, okay? So not all the molecules can actually go through, okay? So it creates a boundary between the cell and the outside environment. But when you go to the figure 5.7, remember, other than lipid bilayer, actually a lot of things are embedded on the membrane. Okay, so a lot of proteins and carbohydrate chains are actually embedded to be involved in different functions. Okay, so for example, they are the carriers. Okay, so they are the channels. Okay, so these can be the channels that allow certain material going in and out of the cell. Okay, so this is one protein. Also, another protein can act as a receptor. Okay, so some kind of signal comes, okay, and then if the signal comes to this receptor, okay, then this receptor actually receives the signal, and that carries the signal into the inside of the cell. Okay, also there are so many different proteins that are actually embedded. Okay, so let's look at a picture for that. All right, so this is the lipid bilayer, okay? So this is the cytoplasm inside of a cell. This is outside of a cell, okay? So this is a type of receptor that we look at, okay? So this is a receptor that actually carries out the signal. This appears in immunology, okay? But this is like MHC molecules that's also on the surface of a cell, okay? So this allows the cell to be actually recognized by the T cells. And on the surface, right, we also have cholesterol. So this is like a lipid actually embedded between the phospholipid bilayers. Okay, and then this is a transporter. Okay, so this allows like certain material going in and out of the cell. And then this is the ATP synthetase. Okay, so this is the enzyme that we looked at when we were talking about the mitochondria, right? So on the membrane of mitochondria, we have this kind of enzyme embedded. Enzyme is also the protein, remember? So this protein is embedded on the membrane of a matrix inside the mitochondria. Okay, and then this is another transporter, but this is called pump. Okay, so this is like a pump that uses ATP, which is energy. So it needs energy to actually let something in and out of the cell. Okay, so we can have two different transporter. This just allows the material going in and out by opening, but this one actually needs energy to pump in and out the material. Okay, so from now we're going to talk about these two molecules, these two organic molecules, this one and this one. Okay. This is a tertiary structure that shows the proteins that's embedded on the lipid bilayer. So these ones are receptors, okay? And these are like channels or transporter that's embedded